What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. Sorry I missed Saturday. As you can tell by my voice, I was a little under the weather this weekend. I honestly don't remember doing Friday's show. I was leaking like a faucet. I'm sure it was uncomfortable for some people. I apologize. I'm back. I feel better. I just don't know how I have a voice. So if I go into some weird accents to try to sound good, it's just Josh. Joining me, as always, Cliffy. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. Happy New Year's to everyone in the chat. We have a pretty big slate here today. I think something like 13 games in total. The main slate tonight is 9 games. It's also a little bit different. The slate's locking at 8 Eastern. Yeah, and there are a bunch of West Coast teams that are playing at 8 Eastern, which would be like 5 o'clock local time. So, Anaheim, Colorado, they're both at home. San Jose's at home. They're all 8 o'clock Eastern locks. So there's going to be some late news coming in. Because those teams probably won't have any type of morning skate. We do have a little bit of information, not all. There are a few teams on a back-to-back, so there could be some important late news today. So I think, every day it's important to pay attention to news as we're leading the lock. I think today, especially given where the teams are, what time they're playing, the teams on the back-to-back, all that. So going to be important to pay attention to information, but kind of an interesting slate. Winnipeg, Colorado is one of those. We could see those teams in the Western Conference Final, though I guess it would depend on the playoff bracket and all that. But anyways, like 2 pretty good teams, like Utah, they probably need to start piling up some wins. They're in Edmonton. Vancouver has some pretty big names missing. They're going into Calgary. A couple chalk spots, but overall, I really do like this slate. And kind of excited to break it all down. It's our last show of 2024. Let's hopefully make it a good one.
Yeah, I see Grade A Fantasy coming in, choosing violence. Glad to see you, Josh. Kako wishes you well. Homie looked like prime Joe Thornton last night. You hate to see it, but you do love to see it for him. Get out of that dumpster fire of New York. But let's get into this slate. Before we do, just wanted to say thank you guys for all your support with all the affiliate signups. It's been about a year. You guys rock. You have supported us through the signups, just being here, all that stuff. We wouldn't be here without you. So thank you. And if you do want to go premium, something we don't make you do, if you watch this show, you got to go premium. That's not how it rolls here. But if you do want to go premium, you can click the link in the chat and use promo code Stochastic15. That'll get you 15% off the first week or month of any subscription. So I chose Jägermeister as my cough medicine. I did. I couldn't find any Goldschlager, but that's a throwback.
Oh my God.
Yeah, now it's just whatever cinnamon whiskey, but Goldschlager was the shit back in high school. Also, we have a $25 super chat from Doug Weissman. He says, big thank you to Josh and Slim Cliffy for a great 2024. Happy New Year, boys. Happy New Year's to you. Thank you for your support. Again, you guys have supported us basically for a year since we switched over to the affiliate, and we appreciate you hanging out with us. And yes, I do sound awful, but I don't feel as bad as I sound, so don't feel awful for me. I did have a few rough days. I just sound ridiculous right now.
Yeah, you do, and it is kind of funny. Thanks a lot, Doug, for that $25 super chat. Like Josh said, we appreciate you, the support. Glad we could help out in any way possible. Hopefully we can make it an even better 2025 for you and the rest of the chat.
Oh, he said Jaeger sounds awful. Listen, I just assumed you're talking shit about me. So look at the ego on this bald-headed freak. Let's get into this slate. New Jersey Devils with a 3.9 total heading into Anaheim. The Ducks have a 2.5 total. This is one of those games on the West Coast starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. local Pacific time for those scoring at home. The Ducks suck. What else is new here? There's going to be a lot of ownership here on New Jersey. Basically, they are cheaper than Edmonton, Colorado. I'm thinking of the other big totals on this slate. Those are the two that come to mind. New Jersey has the highest total on the slate. Their top lines are cheaper. That's why you're seeing some ownership here. Hughes, Bratt, Palat, 19,000. 14.8% projected ownership. Hischier, Meyer, Nason, 11% projected ownership. Now, this is a good 5-on-5 matchup, but it is also a very good power play matchup. So if you did want to get a little unique in a high ownership game, if you're like tunnel visioned on the Devils here, you can leave Palat off and add in Nason. You can go to that Nico Hischier line, leave off Meyer, and add in Bratt or Hughes, something like that. You can always go double center, Hughes, Hischier, and add in someone that you want. That's a nice way to always get unique when building Devils lineups here. This is a really good power play spot, so I don't mind power play stacking. If I had to stack an even strength line, it would be Nico Hischier's line. You save 1,800. They're a little bit lower owned. That's just personal preference, but honestly, my favorite is a power play stack on the Devils or on the Ducks side. I have no interest. Like if a Toronto Terry Strome was like 13,800, I'd maybe have some interest in MME, but they're 16,200, almost 3% projected ownership. The Devils are just shot suppression machines. Like I don't have any interest in the Ducks. I'm out.
Yeah, I'll start on the New Jersey side. There is a fair bit of ownership here, as Josh mentioned. That Hughes line coming in nearly 15%, double-digit ownership as well for the Hischier, Meyer, Nason line. I'll also note that the team total for New Jersey started at 3.6 this morning, and it's gone up to 3.9. I think we might see even higher ownership than what we're showing so far in Top Stack. So, yes, there is going to be a lot of ownership on New Jersey tonight. We'll probably see like maybe 1 out of every 3 lineups have some sort of devil stack, whether it's the first line, second line, power play, maybe even the third line for people fitting in Colorado or whatever. So there is going to be quite a bit of Devils ownership here. What I will say is that you mentioned the power play matchup. And through like the first 6 weeks of the season, Anaheim really wasn't taking a lot of penalties, which is a complete reversal from what they had done over the last couple of years, where they're one of the most penalized teams in the league. First 6 weeks of the season, they're at like 26th for power play opportunities given to the opponent per game. Over the last 5 weeks, it's gone up, and it's gone up a lot. They're starting to take penalties like they did the last 2 years. Second most time shorthanded per game, over the last 5 weeks. So they're starting to take a lot of penalties. The Devils' power play has gone kind of cold. But when I looked into what was going on, their last 12 games, they're shooting 3%. They're still generating a lot of shots. They're still generating good quality. They've just gone a little bit cold for a little streak. This seems like it'd be a pretty good spot for them to snap out of it. So I really do like Hughes, Bratt, and Palat. Once you get teams have sometimes been using their shutdown lines against Nico Hischier. Carolina did that recently. I don't think it really matters. Like, there's not a line that Anaheim has, especially with the defensemen being as suspect as they are. There's not a line that really worries me from a shutdown perspective. I'll just go with the line that has been, better offensively. 3.9 goals per 60 minutes for that Jack Hughes line. Hughes, Bratt, Palat. Hughes has 36 points in his last 27 games. It's like a 110-point pace over a full season. Obviously, he's been shooting the puck a lot. If you want to take out Palat and put in Hischier, it'd be more expensive, or just put in Nason. I think that's fine because it is such a good power play spot that I don't mind going more towards a power play stack here. But I do like the Hughes line. If you want to play Nico Hischier's line because it's cheaper, no issues. I'll just go with the line that's been scoring that gets, Hughes gets a lot of ice time. Bratt gets probably the third. I think he's the third most ice time behind Hughes and Hischier. Like I said, you can turn in power play stack, but they've been really good. So do like the Hughes line, even with that ownership. On the Anaheim side, I don't have a ton of interest in Anaheim here. What I will say is that Fabry, McTavish, Gauthier line is 9,900. So they are a line, like if you want to play a Colorado power play stack, we'll get to the Avs later. If you do want to use some expensive New Jersey or Edmonton or whatever, they are a line that you can fit in with them. And they have been poor defensively, but they've also been pretty good offensively. 71 shot attempts, 3.2 expected goals, 4.1 actual goals per 60 minutes. Like they are the definition of trading chances. They are all perfectly correlated on the second power play unit too. Not that this is a good power play spot by any stretch. It's not, but this is a fully correlated line that has been pretty good at 5-on-5 in a 90-minute sample. It's not big yet, but pretty good at 5-on-5, and they're under 10K. So I'm not running out to target. I'm not targeting them specifically. I'm almost certainly not going to be playing any Anaheim here tonight, but I do think McTavish, Gauthier, Fabry, if you are playing expensive Edmonton or Colorado or whatever, they should at least be considered as one of those filler stacks you can use.
Yeah, I guess. If you're diving under 10,000, you can't really – all those lines are going to have issues. So Winnipeg Jets with a 2.7 total heading into Colorado. The Avs have a 3.7. Johnny Drouin back. They had a optional skate this morning, but the coach did confirm he'll be in the top 6 and on the top power play unit. Now, they didn't run the lines, but as we have right now, it's McKinnon, Nichushkin, Lehkonen, Rantanen, Colton, Drouin. So Drouin will take Colton's spot on the power play. Winnipeg played last night, and they ran out Connor Hellebuyck, so it will be Eric Comrie in net. Now, Eric Comrie is a decent backup, but it's still a pretty massive drop-off from Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck, best goalie, arguably the best goalie in the league. Good backup is nice, but it's Eric Comrie. The reason that's important is for two things. One, I feel like the ownership on Colorado in our top stacks is it's low. I feel like it's low because they're used to running it with Hellebuyck. But also there's Edmonton on this slate, who's a little bit higher on. There's ownership on the Devils, so maybe it's fine. Another reason is Johnny Drouin's $3,000, and he's on the top power play unit. So I know Lehkonen had his hat trick the other night, but that was probably last week. I just don't remember. But he is $2,600 cheaper than Lehkonen. So that would take the line down to 19,200, fully correlated. McKinnon, Nichushkin, Drouin. That's into the Devils price territory. You are stacking across two lines, but that will get you a McKinnon line under $20,000 on the power play. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty decent power play spot as it is. You throw Comrie into the mix. Their 5-on-5 matchup is pretty good. Obviously, Lehkonen's on the line 5-on-5. Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, they tend to trade chances. So does McKinnon, Nichushkin, Lehkonen. They are wildly high event. But, it's a decent power play spot. And if you're looking to fit in a decent second stack and you don't want to spend $22,000, I would just swap Lehkonen for Drouin there. You could always go, crazy expensive and put in Rantanen in there. But this is a pretty decent power play spot. Now, Rantanen, Colton, Duran, if that's the line, I don't have a ton of interest in that at 17,000. I'd rather just make some sort of power play stack with McKinnon. On the flip side, like Mackenzie Blackwood has been really good for Colorado. But in a 70-minute sample, on McKinnon, Nishushkin, Lehkonen line, it's giving up 4 expected goals against per 60. Like, I'm not saying go out and play Winnipeg 1. They're 21,400. That's a problem. But, like, this is a pretty decent 5-on-5 matchup here. I wish they were like 19,200. I'd have a little bit more interest. They're kind of priced out at 21,400, but if you're making 150 and you get like 1 or 2% of it, I think that's fine. But this is a Colorado power play game for me.
Yeah, I agree on Winnipeg. It's one of those things where like obviously Blackwood's been really good. He's not going to keep up a 940 save percentage the rest of the season, but he's been really good. He's been really good since he left New Jersey. Like it's kind of, it's been kind of tough standing out on a really bad Sharks team, but he stole a lot of games for them, or at least kept them close. And now he has a much better team in front of him. I kind of agree with you. It's like if Winnipeg was like 19-5, I would at least be giving it some consideration just because there's not going to be very much ownership. But they are very expensive. Like you said, you can swap in Drouin over Lehkonen and make it, a sub 20K Colorado stack. Colorado's penalty kill has been a lot better over like the last month and a half. And with Blackwood playing as well as he is, it just makes that penalty kill even better. So Winnipeg, I agree with you. Winnipeg for me, just in general, will be one of those, if I have one in a 20 max, fine. If I have a handful in a 150 max, fine. But I just think there are other spots in single entry I'd rather go, especially like if you can get Colorado at under 10%, like I don't in single entry or the new 5 max or whatever, I don't see a big reason why you necessarily need to go to a sub 1% Winnipeg, but sub 1% for a top line that's been very good at 5-on-5, that's been very good on the power play, is one of those things that should probably catch the interest of players playing 150 lineups here tonight. But it is a Colorado side I have more interest in. It is Colorado 1. You mentioned their high event. Yes, they've given up a lot defensively. They're also at 4.0 expected goals for per 60 minutes. You get 2 out of the 3 guys on top power play. Like you said, you can take out Lehkonen and put in Drouin and make it a full power play stack. I think that's perfectly fine. Even with Lehkonen, if you do leave Lehkonen, even with him losing the power play role to Colton, when Colton came back, Lehkonen still be skating like 19 plus minutes a game, right? So it's not like this guy's down to like 16 minutes, like a Timo Meier situation in New Jersey, right? Without the power play time, he's still playing 19 to 20 minutes. So I'm fine with just Colorado 1. I'm fine with taking out Lehkonen and putting in Jonathan Drouin, because the point you made about Comrie is a good one. His save percentage this season, I think, is like 902, which is a little bit better than the league average, if I'm not mistaken. So, a league average backup, you can't really ask for a whole lot more. But the difference between him and Hellebuck is still over a goal per game. You know what I mean? It's like, so it does make a huge difference having Comrie in net. So I really do like Avs 1 here. They're at least in consideration for me as a main stack, especially where you can drop down to Drouin and make it much cheaper. So I really do like Colorado 1 by far in this game. Colorado 2, I don't have a ton of interest in. Colton and Rantanen have been fine together, but not great. It's Drouin's first game back. Like he was injured, came back, got injured again. Now he's back. Like, does he get injured again? Like, I do think there are a few concerns with Colorado too. So for me, this is a Colorado in single entry and stuff, like similar contests. It's Colorado 1, or I probably move along.
Pittsburgh Penguins with a 2.9 total. Heading into Detroit, the Wings have a 3.1 total. Pittsburgh going Crosby, Rust, Raquel, Malkin, Bunting, Beauvillier, O'Connor, Glass, Tomasino. Detroit, for some reason, going Larkin, Raymond, Veleno, DeBrincat, Kane, Kopp, Tarasenko, Confer, Bergen. Whatever those lines are, like, I don't have it. Like, do I really want to play Joe Veleno tonight? Like, no. But that line's 15,500 going up against, the Crosby line. They've gotten better defensively. Like, they're still trading chances, but it's not as horrific as it was a few weeks ago. The new coach in Detroit, like Cliff, you mentioned, he wrote about it on another site. He mentioned it on the show. He kind of wants to push the pace a little bit here. Like, I don't really like Detroit, but like, I don't mind Larkin, Raymond, Veleno. Like, you do whatever you want with Veleno. It's really Larkin and Raymond that I have interest in going up against Crosby, Rust, Raquel. If this was like 6 weeks ago, I'd be a lot higher in Detroit, but Pittsburgh's kind of locked it up a little bit defensively. Letang's out and Pettersson's back in. Maybe that helps a little bit. I don't know. I don't really love Detroit. Like Detroit too, I guess, to bring Cat Kane Cop. They're 13,400. They'll fit with almost anybody. That Malkin Bunting line has been atrocious defensively. So, like, I get it from that standpoint, but at the same time, it's the Wings. Maybe that's just a bad bias, but, like, I don't want to be playing Andrew Kopp or Joe Veleno on a 9-game slate in single entry. MME, sure, you get your cup, you fill it up to how much you want, and you go about your day. But, like, single entry, I don't think I can do it. I'm out for the most part on Detroit. Larkin Raymond is fine. Pittsburgh 1 is interesting to me. They have been very, very good at 20,700, but that in lies the problem, right? They're 20,700 when you have a Colorado 1 at 21.8, you have Edmonton 1 at 21.7, something like that. And here's the issue. McKinnon's going to play 22, 23 minutes. Connor McDavid's going to get 21 minutes. These guys, Crosby, Rust, Raquel, they'll probably play under 20 minutes. Can they get it done in that time? Yes, but it makes it very hard to prioritize in single entry over Colorado, over Edmonton, over New Jersey because of their price and how many minutes they play. They're only coming in at 2.2% projected. So, like, I think they're a very, very good play. It's just going to be hard for me to get there in single entry because if I'm going to spend almost $21,000, not only do I want the matchup, I want the minutes to go with it. So I do like Pittsburgh 1 in a nutshell, but it's more of an MME play for me. I think a Michael Bunting one-off is something that I would definitely be interested in. He's still under 4K, shooting a bunch, top power play. Favorite line in this game is Pittsburgh 1. It's just kind of hard to prioritize them.
Yeah. I will say I don't really have much interest in Detroit either. Like, it's not a bad matchup. Here's the thing. That Sherratt-Cedar top pair, that's just like, just leave Joe Veleno and Andrew Kopp out of this conversation for a second. Ben Sherratt and Moritz Seider are getting their brains beat in. When they're on the ice together at 5-on-5, the sample's over 165 minutes now. 20 shots for, 35 against per 60 minutes. It's like, they're not creating anything offensively and they're getting slammed defensively. So, like, if that's what's going to be going out with the Dylan Larkin line in a shutdown-ish role, it's just not going to work, man. Not long-term. Maybe it works tonight. Anything can happen in one day of hockey, but that's just not a good defensive pair to, send out with your top line. So that's one reason why I don't really like Detroit here tonight. I think if anything, I'd probably play the second line just because I don't think they'll play that much with Sherratt and Cedar. They'll avoid the shutdown matchups. So, DeBrincat, Kopp, and Kane, not like they've been fine offensively, actually. 59 shot attempts, 2.3 expected goals. That's kind of low. 4.9 actual goals per 60 over the last couple of years together. Still just a 100-minute sample. It's not huge, but you still get 2 out of 3 on the power play. They're relatively cheap. I think they're okay in a 150. I'm not getting there in single entries. So for me, the interest would be more on the Pittsburgh side. The only line I have interest in stacking is Pittsburgh 1. I will say I'd rather play Pittsburgh than Winnipeg here tonight. Similar price range. Pittsburgh's in a much, 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 much better matchup. I think that's why you're seeing them with I have a 3.1 total. So like, that's not bad. They moved to put the power play, the top line back together on the power play. Remember, they had been separated for half dozen games or whatever it was. They were skating on the power play together last game. So now they are back to fully correlated. The power play is not good. The Detroit penalty kill is also not good. So like, maybe this is the one game they can break through. I don't dislike playing Pittsburgh, but I think I kind of agree with you. It's like, to me, they're behind New Jersey, they're behind Colorado, they're behind Edmonton, but they're also ahead of Winnipeg, like I said. So, they're probably also ahead of Buffalo for me. Maybe even ahead of Nashville. So like, they're kind of in the middle of those expensive lines. There are lines I have rated better that do have a higher top two stack, Colorado, Edmonton, specifically New Jersey, but I don't have them amongst the worst in that price range either. So I think for me, like if I was playing 20 max, I might have one or two Pittsburgh, one here, single entry. I don't think I'm going to get there, but they're at least going to be in a little bit of consideration for me. And it's really the only line I have a lot of interest in this game.
Carolina Hurricanes with a 3.7 total heading into Columbus. Our Blue Jackets have a 2.7 total. Okay. Hear me out here. Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Jack Roslovic, 17,500, 8.2% top two stacks, 6.9% projected ownership. Sean Monahan, Kirill Marchenko, Dmitry Voronkov, 17,300, 5.6% top two stack, 1.9% projected ownership. I'd rather play the Columbus top line here. Here's why. Since the line became Jarvis, Aho, Roslovic instead of Aho, Svechnikov, Roslovic, 75-minute sample, almost 3 expected goals against per 60, almost 6 actual goals against per 60. Now you go over to the Columbus side, which is going to be the matchup because Columbus is at home. That Columbus top line, they're almost up to 200 minutes now. 3.9 expected goals per 60, basically 6 even per 60, or 6 actual goals for. Like, their numbers have gotten better of late. Like last week, they're like 3.7 expected goals. They're creating even more now. They're going up against a line on Carolina that has not been good defensively. Yeah, Pyotr Kochetkov is their best goalie, but like he hasn't been great this season. I think my favorite line in this game is the Monahan Marchenko Voronkov line at 17,300. The depth of Columbus doesn't really interest me. If you need a cheap line, like Cliffy said, like that Ducks line, I guess you could play Johnson, Sillinger, Olivier at 11-2. Doesn't really excite me, but like if you need a line that cheap, there isn't going to be much that excites you in that price range. So I don't mind that. On the Carolina side, like this is a good power play matchup. The problem is Ghost is out. Ty Smith is running the top power play unit for Carolina. That is the same Ty Smith who is only in the NHL because he can run a power play. He did it with Pittsburgh, he did it with New Jersey, right? Is that the Ty Smith, or am I making that up?
No, that's the same guy.
Yeah. Like I don't think I want to full stack anything because that Aho, Jarvis, Roslovic line, they haven't been great. And then you go to the second line with 2 guys on the top power play unit, but their center's Jesperi Kotkaniemi. They're creating 1.5 expected goals per 60 in like a 90-minute sample. If you want to do some sort of like Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov stack in MME for power play because it's a good power play spot, go ahead. Ty Smith is min price. He'll keep the average cost down, but like in single entry, I prefer the Columbus side.
Yeah. Ty Smith is supposed to be a good offensive defenseman. It was just he wasn't consistent enough offensively to make up for the defensive deficiencies that he had. So like whatever we might think of Shane Gostisbehere, Ty Smith is not an upgrade over him in any sense. Smith does have 50, I think it's 53 points in his last 76 games in the AHL. It's like a 55-point pace for a defenseman at 23, 24 years old in the AHL. It's pretty good, but it is still a bit of a downgrade. And we mentioned on the last show, like Carolina, it's been like basically almost 2 months now that this team has been sliding defensively to where they're below at league average at 5-on-5. Now, what worries me for Columbus is that Carolina's penalty kill has held up pretty well. It's one thing that they have been consistently elite with basically for like the last 3 or 4 years. Certainly been the case again this season. So that's basically the one thing holding me back from Columbus here, is that I don't think it's a very good power play spot. Columbus isn't drawing a ton of power plays. They've been about league average over the last 5 weeks. So they'd have to really get there at 5-on-5. The thing is like in that price range, that let's call it like 16 to 18K price range, there's just not a lot there. Like we'll talk about Philly in a second. Like there's a Philly line, there's Anaheim, there's, that New Jersey line is going to carry a lot of ownership. There's a Vancouver line I don't want to play. There's Carolina on the other side, which is fine. There's Minnesota that I don't want to play. So like that's kind of the thing, is like of the mid-price stacks, if you take out New Jersey, this is probably my number 2 line in that mid-price range. So I do like Columbus here, perfectly correlated. I just worry about the power play matchup, like having to get there at 5-on-5 or empty net or whatever. It's just a lot to ask. So I do like Columbus. I don't think I'm going to get to them in single entry. It's kind of the same thing for Carolina. Aho, Jarvis, Roslovic, you mentioned their issues defensively. Offensively, they've been pretty good, but they've also been pretty good because they're shooting, I think it's like 17 or 18% as a line. Like it's been preposterous. So, Seth Jarvis only has 20 shots in his last 10 games, something like that. So he's not getting a ton of shots off. Roslovic can be bumped to the 4th line, like at any shift. That's something that they've done a fair bit this year. So I don't mind Carolina 1. I think for me, it'd be certainly more of like a 150 line of play than it would be single entry. I think for me, it's Columbus 1 in this game. But again, I don't know if I'm going to get to them just because of the way that I'm going to be building. But I do think Columbus 1 deserves some attention here. This has been a really good line of 5-on-5. Maybe they get lucky once on the power play, and then you're laughing. But I do like the Columbus side more than the Carolina side, which is kind of weird because yes, Carolina does have a pretty big total here.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. They not a big believer in coincidences. As soon as Jack Drury went out of the lineup, their defensive numbers started sliding because they had to move people out of place. It's their problem that they've had for years. It's why they haven't won a Stanley Cup. They don't have enough center depth. But anyway, Buffalo Sabres with a 2.5 total heading into Dallas. The Stars have a 3.5. We didn't get a huge update on Dallas. They did say same lineup as last game. It is Casey DeSmith in net, not Jake Ottinger. So if it's the same lineup, they're going to be running back Robertson, Hintz, Dadonov, Johnston, Duchesne, Ben, and then Stankov and Bork and back. Buffalo going Thompson, Tuck, Zucker, Peterka, Cousins, Quinn, Benson, Kulich, Krebs. I'm pretty much out on Buffalo here. By pretty much, like I am out. Like it's almost a 100-minute sample with Thompson, Tuck, and Zucker. They're creating nothing. Peterka, Cousins, Quinn, 90-minute sample, not controlling the play. Like, I'm fine with them in MME just because they're cheap enough at 13-1, but, like, I don't really see myself getting to any Buffalo here. The Dallas side is way more interesting here. Johnston, Duchesne, Ben at 14,900. It's just above a filler line. They fit with New Jersey. They'll fit with the Colorado line if you take out Lekin and that and Drouin, you know what I mean? They have a 7.1% top 2 stack. 12.6% projected ownership. Yeah, it's a little bit negatively leveraged, but for 14,900, that's not terrible. And they get good matchups. It doesn't matter if they see Tage Thompson. It doesn't matter if they see Dylan Cousins. Both those lines have struggled mightily. So I do prefer Johnston, Duchesne, Ben. If you want to save the $700 and a couple percent ownership, you can go to Robertson, Hintz, to Donoff. Like, I can't stack a line with Evgeny Dadonov in the top 6 right now. I know he has to be there while they're dealing with some injuries, but it's just like he does nothing for me. So I prefer to go to Johnston, Duchesne, Ben here, and it's not particularly close.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton of interest in the Buffalo side. I do think Jake Ottinger is a better goalie than Casey DeSmith. Casey DeSmith is getting the start. Casey DeSmith has also been about as good as Ottinger this year. Now it's like 10 game sample or whatever. That's not enough to tell you anything about a goalie, but I do think it's notable that it's been about as good as Ottinger. So, pretty tough 5-on-5 matchup for Buffalo. Dallas penalty kill is like one of the best in the league. So yeah, I'm out on the Sabres. If anything, be Peterka, Cousins, and Quinn to use them as a filler stack to put with a New Jersey or Colorado or something like that. But that's it. My interest is on the Dallas side, and I agree with you on going to Johnston, Duchesne, and Ben. Now they're coming in with 12.6% ownership. It's a little high, but honestly, for a line under 15K at home with that big total, I think that's fine. And you get 2 out of 3 guys on the top power play unit. Buffalo's penalty kill's fine, not great or anything. It's just kind of fine. Dallas has been drawing a lot more power plays. That was kind of an issue. Scoring in general on the power play has been an issue for that top unit, basically 80% of the season so far. But the larger problem was that they weren't drawing a lot of power plays. That's kind of changed basically since mid-November, over the last 5 weeks. I think they're number 1 by power play opportunities per game. They're number 1 over Winnipeg. So, they might get 3, 4, 5 power play opportunities. Even a struggling power play can score once if they get four cracks or kicks at the can here. So I do like Johnston, Duchesne, and Ben. A big problem with Johnston and Ben was that a lot of their offensive issues were driven by shooting percentage. Like Logan Stankoven's kind of struggled to score this year. I think that's why you're seeing him down on the 4th line. Matt Duchesne still having another pretty good season. He is one of their most consistent offensive performers this year. So I really do like Johnston, Duchesne, and Ben. Not worried about any of the matchups. Johnston even gets sometimes pushing 20 minutes a night, if not more. So you get good ice time. You get 2 out of 3 on the power play. It's a pretty good matchup, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. So I like Duchesne, Ben, and Johnston. If you want to play Robertson, Hintz, to Donoff, I'm not going to say no, but I kind of agree with you that the Donoff really does nothing for me on that line. It's not like that line's been very good this year anyways, regardless of who's on the other wing. So Johnston, Duchesne, and Ben, assuming that that's the line we get in warm-ups, is the only line that I have a lot of interest in for single entry here tonight.
Nashville Predators with a 2.7 total heading into Minnesota. The Wild have a 2.9 total. Nashville played last night with Saros, so it's more than likely going to be Justice Anuin. I don't want to play Minnesota here. I don't want to play Minnesota without Kaprizov. But, Justice Anuin, pretty steep drop-off from UC Saros. Nashville's back-to-back on the road. They're a slow team. The issue I'm running into here is Boldy, Zuccarello, Rossi, 18,000, 12.3% top 2 stack, 11.3% projected ownership. It's the ownership's a big issue for me because that line has not been good at 5-on-5. It's a small sample, but it's not surprising that they've struggled without Kaprizov. For the ownership reasons on that top line, I'm out on them. I think they're a decent play here tonight, but I just can't play him at that ownership. If I'm going to go to a line, I think it would be Eriksson, Ek, Hartman, Johansson for a couple reasons. I can't imagine the Minnesota power play being anything decent without Kaprizov. Nashville has a decent penalty kill. A lot of it is goalie related, so that could be an issue here tonight. But Joel Eriksson, Hartman, Johansson, they get top comp matchups at home. They're only 12,000. They're going to go out against Forsberg, Marchessault, Stamkos. Now the line has not been good defensively since they've gotten put together. So, Eriksson, Ek, and Johansson have decent numbers in a pretty decent sample this season. Ryan Hartman, you can say whatever you want about Ryan Hartman. He's cheap. He's a pretty decent offensive player. I don't mind Minnesota 2 at 12K as a fill here tonight. I'm not alone, as the projected ownership is 8.5%, but I'd rather play that line at 8.5% than the top line at 11.3%. You save the 6,000. You save a little bit of ownership. You get a better 5-on-5 matchup. I'm not super high on Nashville either. I don't really want to play the Forsberg, Marchessault, Stamkos line. O'Reilly, Nyquist as a two-man, I think, is fine. Evangelista, Novak is all right as a two-man. They're 8K, so, if you're power play stacking, sure, good stuff. But, I'm pretty much out on Nashville as well.
I'm going to be honest. I don't have a ton of interest in this game, just generally speaking. There, like you said, there's a lot of ownership coming in on Minnesota, over 11% for the top line, 8.5% for the second line. No Kaprizov really worries me. I don't know if – listen, I like Marco Rossi. We both like Marco Rossi. Over the last 2 years, in 880 minutes, when Rossi's been playing without Kaprizov on his line, the goal scoring rate is 1.7 goals per 60 minutes for Minnesota. That is, off the top of my head, 30% worse than league average. If you look at his sample so far this year with Boldy on his line, when he doesn't have Kaprizov or Eriksson, 47 shot attempts for, 70 against, 1.8 expected goals for, 3.2 against. He has not been anywhere as close to the same offensive player, at least by the team scoring rate, when he doesn't have Kaprizov with him. You talk about the Minnesota power play without Kaprizov. Even with Kaprizov, it wasn't that good. You know what I mean? So, I just, if you want to play the second line, that Eriksson, Hartman, Johansson line, because they are a filler you can put with your 19, 20K lines, I guess that's fine. But there may not be, I don't really say this lightly, there may not be a player outside of maybe Quinn Hughes, who is more like a skater, who's more important to his team than Kaprizov is. They are just not the same team, anywhere close to the same team without him. So I'm out on Minnesota. If anything, it would probably be Nashville 1. And the only reason I have interest in Nashville 1 is this is a great power play matchup. Minnesota's penalty kill remains absolutely just god awful. Bottom of the league by goals against per 60, basically all season, certainly at the bottom of the league over the last 5 weeks. Not quite at the bottom of the league. Sorry, 31st. Only the Islanders have been worse over the last 5 weeks. But it's basically been what Minnesota's calling card has been on the PK for a year and a half now. So that Nashville top power play has been very, very good. The top line's been fine. Has been good offensively at 5-on-5. It's not a great matchup for them, but they're in a great power play spot. They're priced in that, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, Winnipeg range. I'd rather play Nashville 1 than Winnipeg 1 here tonight. So I think Nashville 1 is playable, but for me, it'd be more 20 max, 150 max, just because it is such a good power play spot for them. Other than that, no, just not a lot of interest here.
Philadelphia Flyers with a 3.4 total. Heading into San Jose, the Sharks have a 2.7. Now, it says lineup update. Sam Ersson gets the start. Same lineup as last game. It's from the Flyers Twitter. Nothing from Torts. That worries me. But, as it stands, it's Konechny, Tippett, Couturier, Mitchkov, Frost, Lawton, Forrester, Brink, Cates, Sharks going Celebrini, Zetterlund, Smith, Granlund, Cunnin, Kostin, and Toffoli, Wenberg, Kovalenko.
And just to jump in real quick, while we were on the show, I saw they put William Eklund on injured reserve and called up Colin Graff.
Good prospect,
right? He's been good in the AHL so far this season as a rookie. I think he's 22 years old now, but he's got 26 points in 29 games. But he's more of a playmaker. He's basically, he could be William Eklund if he develops properly, like a playmaker type who won't shoot a lot but can score every once in a while.
Have fun playing with Barclay Goodrow.
Well, see, that's the thing. We don't know where he's going to slot in. I assume they have him in the top 9 somewhere. I don't think that's a guy that you call up to play on your 4th line. So, like, maybe he takes Kostin's spot or something like that, but we'll have to wait to see when warm-ups start.
Yeah. I don't trust Torts as far as I can throw him here. Like, I don't know what I want to do because, like, this is a really, really good matchup 5-on-5 and power play. But the thing is, like, the Flyers' power play sucks. So I think one off Konechny, one off Michkov, one off Tippett. I think you do like Tippett, Konechny, a Couturier, Konechny, something like that. If I was going to stack a line, it would honestly be Forrester, Brink, Cates at 8,900. Like, that line has been together for a while now. They've been pretty good. There isn't really a matchup coming back from the Sharks that worry me. They fit with anybody. They're 8,900. You get Bobby Brink on the top power play unit for whatever that's worth. So, like, if I'm going to stack a line, it would be that line, and I'd save it for if I'm, like, doing something with Colorado or Edmonton or power play stacking or something. Other than that, like, I think, like, a Konechny one-off, a Tippett one-off, or a Michkov one-off is what I'd want to do on the Flyers side. Like, it's a really good power play matchup, but, like, I don't know, man. Like, the Flyers power play has been bad for years now, so I don't know. On the Sharks side, I think I don't have a ton of interest, but Urson has been pretty bad. Toffoli and Kovalenko have pretty decent numbers together. Most of that has been with Celebrini, but they're only 10,200 with Alex Wenberg. Like, you can say what you want about Wenberg for DFS, but he's a decent actual hockey player. So I think on the Sharks side, I do something with Toffoli, Wenberg, Kovalenko.
Yeah, you mentioned the Philly power play. It's like the Philly top power play unit is generating 79.4 shot attempts per 60 minutes at 5-on-4. That's about the same shot attempt rate that Sebastian Aho has at 5-on-5. The Flyers power play is just a high-paced 5-on-5 line. It's actually incredible how bad that they still are, even with Michkov. Now, the San Jose has been taking a lot more penalties of late. There's a couple of stretch there for about a few weeks where they calmed down, but earlier in the season and now of late, they've been taking a lot more penalties, 3.3 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks. So, maybe the Flyers get there on the power play just through sheer attrition and volume, but you really do. I'm really not worried about power play stacking the Flyers. Let's put it that way. So, I'm not worried about Konechny and Michkov being on separate lines. I think I'd be more interested in, Konechny, Couturier, Tippett is a fine line to stack at 5-on-5 if you want, assuming that they are together. I probably prefer just a Travis Konechny one-off. I think I agree with you. I prefer the Forster, Brink, Cates line. It's pretty notable that they've been skating about 16, 17 minutes a game over the last 5 games. They were perfectly correlated on the power play, and I think they got more power play ice time than the first unit, the Konechny-Michkov unit, in the last game. So, we do have to worry about Torts blowing things up at any given moment, but that Cates that Cates Brink Forster line has been pretty consistently together for Cates Forster Brink, pretty consistently together for like a month now. And they've been good besides that. 2.7 expected goals for, 3.9 actual goals for, shooting nearly 14%, but even at like 10% or something like that, they would still be well above average by scoring. And again, perfectly correlated under 9K. Like there's a fair bit of ownership on them. They probably come in close to 5%, but a perfectly correlated line that's actually playing well at 5-on-5, and I think is the least line that's the least likely to get, broken up. I like that Forster Brink Cates line here. I really do. I'm not worried about any of the matchups from the San Jose side. Speaking of San Jose, I don't hate the idea of playing that Toffoli Wenberg line. The thing is with Jake Wallman out, they went to a 5-forward power play last game, and that includes Fabian Zetterlund now. So Celebrini and Zetterlund do have power play correlation. So there's 2 of the 3 out of that on that line with power play correlation. Celebrini's almost at that point now. It's kind of like we talk about, with like Minnesota or something like that. Like I don't think I can stack them without playing him. So Celebrini, Zetterlund, and Smith for me. Celebrini, 2.6 expected goals, 3.3 actual goals per 60 in his time playing away from Barclay Goodrow and Tyler Toffoli. I mean, I just use that example because they're kind of like opposite ends of the spectrum. Like Toffoli can actually help drive the play, whereas Goodrow just keeps getting run over. So like when Celebrini's playing with like the middle of the roster guys, he's still producing pretty well offensively. The team's still scoring well offensively. So I actually do like that Celebrini line. They're not quite filler status because they're almost 14K. But in that price range, they are one of my favorite lines just because the Philly goaltending is terrible. It doesn't matter who starts. So I do like that Celebrini line here, but I think the Cates line is my favorite line in this game.
Yeah, and I know some people might be worried that Torts will blow him up. In Torts' last blow up, he kept that line together. It was the first, second, and fourth lines that he completely jumbled. It's like the one line, knock on wood. We'll knock on wood, not too loudly. We need to leave Bacon sleeping. But, we got to hope that stays together. I like that line. Vancouver Canucks with a 2.7 total. Heading into Calgary, the Pilot Lights have a 2.8 total. This game sucks. Pettersson's out. Quinn Hughes is out for Vancouver. Like Quinn Hughes being out, arguably, like Cliffy alluded to it when breaking down the Minnesota game. Quinn Hughes being out is arguably worse than Kaprizov being out. Like he is their best player, and it's not even close. I worry with these, like, I know Eric Brandstrom's taking over the power play with Quinn Hughes out, and that's good, but like he's still on the third pair playing 14 minutes. Move the guy up and let him play 20. He's their best puck mover without Quinn Hughes. So, like, I don't have a ton of interest in Vancouver here. Miller, Besser, DeBrusk is 17,500. At that price, I'd rather just go play Columbus. 2.2% projected ownership. Like, it's nice, but, like, I don't know. They're going to get the Backlund, Coleman, Coronado matchup. That line has been pretty good. The power play without Pettersson, without Quinn Hughes worries me a little bit. I am pretty high on Brandstrom, but I don't know. That line's kind of tough to get to at that price. If they were cheaper, it'd be a different conversation. I think a Connor Garland one-off is fine. You want to play Garland, Suter, Hoglander as a filler, like I guess it's fine, but like I don't really love Vancouver here. Calgary's getting a lot of ownership for some reason. Backlund, Coleman, Coronado, 10.5% projected ownership, and they'll be going out against the Miller, Besser, DeBrusk line. That line has been very, very good defensively, but I do worry that, as I turn purple, I do worry that that's a new color. Like, I'm just like, that's like a live shot of how my head was on Friday.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this is just Josh's brain fog coming through on camera.
Yeah. Just mega mind right now. But back on Coleman Coronado going out against Miller, Besser, DeBrusk, like that Miller, Besser, DeBrusk line has been very, very good defensively. But I do worry that a lot of that has to do with Quinn Hughes. At 10.5% projected, though, I don't really love it at 11,900. I think I would go to Kadri, Huberdeau, Pospisil. But again, like, I don't particularly love either side of this game. And I certainly don't want to play chalk Calgary. So I don't find myself getting to anything in single entry here. MME is a different story, obviously, but I don't really think I'm going to be prioritizing this game.
Yeah, just to put a point on it, JT Miller and Brock Besser have played 96 minutes away from Quinn Hughes. 1.4 expected goals, 1.9 actual goals. In the 117 minutes they played with Quinn Hughes, 3.8 expected goals for, 4.0 actual goals for. It's like it's literally like double the offense. I think Quinn Hughes' impact, he is good defensively. I'm not saying that Quinn Hughes isn't. I think Quinn Hughes' impact for the Vancouver side is way more on the offensive side of the puck than it is on the defensive side of the puck. Like, if you look at any of their players, their offensive numbers just absolutely crater when Hughes is off the ice. And with Hronek still injured, they're missing their top pair. I don't have any interest in Vancouver here. None of the forward skaters anyway. So if somebody wants to play him, go ahead. But no, I'm out on the Canucks. For me, my interest is on the Calgary side. I think it's Kadri, Huberdeau, Pospisil that I would play. I don't mind playing Backlund, Coleman, Coronado. They have been good. Kadri line has been generating more shot attempts, though, more expected goals, certainly more actual goals. Backlund and Coleman, while they typically create well, they don't create a lot of good quality. They almost always have a low shooting percentage. You know, that we mentioned on the last show, Pospisil is actually getting decent amounts of ice time. You can rely on maybe around 16 minutes a game, Kadri around 18. Huberdeau's pushing 20 over the last 5 games. Nazem Kadri is averaging like 3.7 shots per game over his last 20 games. I think he's hit the shot bonus 7 times in that span. So even though there's no power play correlation, he's still creating a lot offensively. They are coming in with a fair bit of ownership, 7.5%, but only 3.3% top 2 stack. I really do like that Kadri line here. They're going to go up against the second and third lines from Vancouver. So however good defensively Miller or Besser might be, they're going to avoid that a fair bit. I do like the Kadri line here. I think Sharon Govich, Zarian Peltier is playable just because they're under 10K. You get 2 guys on the top power play. And Calgary's power play has generally been good. But I want guys that are going to probably, and they're fine because they are under 10K. You don't need a lot from them. But, my highest rated line, just number 2 by top stacks, is that Kadri Huberdeau Pospisil line. 2.9 expected goals, 4.3 actual goals. Like I said, they're playing 16 on the low end with Pospisil, 20 on the high end with Huberdeau. I really do like them here tonight. 7.5% ownership on a 9-game slate. That's not enough to scare me off. So Kadri line for me, but Calgary does have 3 playable lines depending on what you want to do with your lineup.
Utah Soakers with a 2.7 total heading into Edmonton. The Oilers have a 3.8. Vejmelka went last night, so it's going to be Jackson Stuber in that. I think he's had like 2 or 3 starts, 928 save percentage. Short sample, obviously. I mean, obviously, my favorite line in this game is McDavid, Hyman, Nugent, Hopkins. It's not the best 5-on-5 matchup. Like, Utah has been decent at 5-on-5. The issue is they take a lot of penalties and their penalty kill sucks. Now, has Edmonton's power play gotten back to what they were last year? No. But if you're going to give this power play 5 chances here tonight, they're coming in under 10% projected. They're cheaper than Colorado 1. I don't know, man. Like, I really, really like Edmonton 1 here. Edmonton 2, like, I guess they're fine. But I want power play guys here. So, like, if you want to do something with Draisaitl, that's fine. But again, like, it's going to be impossible for me to play Edmonton without McDavid here tonight. So I'm prioritizing the power play guys here. It's a tough-ish 5-on-5 matchup, so it'll be the Edmonton power play for me. On the Utah side, like if it wasn't back-to-back on the road, I'd have maybe a little bit more interest because the Edmonton goaltending has been awful. I guess I don't mind Keller Schmaltz Hayton at 14-6. I don't mind Genther Cooley McBain at 13-4. I'm certainly not prioritizing them. If I was 20 maxing and I happened to get one of either of those lines in my 20, I'd be okay with it. But other than that, it's an Edmonton game for me.
Yeah, I don't hate Utah here tonight, right? That top line has been really, really good offensively basically all season. 3.4 expected goals, 3.1 actual goals per 60 minutes. Schmaltz and Keller playing around 19 minutes. With top power play time, Keller 32 shots in his last 10 games, so he's been a little bit more shot happy of late as well. It's a reasonably cheap price, $14,600. They're just kind of in an awkward spot, right? Like you can't maybe if you do that Drouin switch that we talked about, you can play him with Colorado, but Colorado, it's tough to game stack, with Edmonton. You can kind of fit them in with Pittsburgh, but then you're really dumpster diving for your defenseman and your goalie. Like, I don't mind them in a nutshell. They're just kind of in an awkward spot. And honestly, like I'd probably rather just save like 4.5K or whatever it is and go play like Philly 3 or something like that. You know what I mean? Just in a much better spot. And like, even as bad as the Edmonton goaltending has been, like Stuart Skinner's been worse than league average by just about every metric. And he's still giving up under 3 goals per game because Edmonton just doesn't give up a ton of shots. So I think Utah 1 is fine, but for me, they'd be more 20 max or 150, that type of thing. It is the Edmonton side that I do have more interest in. And it's just going to Edmonton 1. Now, here's the thing. I don't hate Edmonton 2 as a line. Draisaitl, Arvidsson, Podkolzin, they've actually been pretty good together this year. 3.0 expected goals for, 2.3 against. They're having trouble finishing, shooting under 6%. Podkolzin hasn't proven himself as a finisher yet this year or in his career. Victor Arvidsson usually doesn't have a high shooting percentage, so that they're kind of like that Backlund line. Just instead of Backlund, they have Draisaitl who can finish. So they're fine, but they're also coming in over-owned, and they're also in that 14K-ish price range. So, like, given how many penalties that Utah generally takes, they've been taking less of late, but still, earlier in the season, they're like first, second with like Boston, Montreal for like time shorthanded per game. Over the last 5 weeks, it's been less, but still 6th most in the league. So, if Edmonton gets 3, 4, maybe even 5 power plays here tonight, I really do like the chances of McDavid, Hyman, and Nugent Hopkins getting on the board. Hyman's been an absolute beast since he returned as well. 10 goals and 35 shots in his last 11 games. I really do like Edmonton 1 here. If you want to make it in a more expensive stack and take out like Nugent Hopkins, put in Draisaitl or something like that, I think you can, because it is a decent power play spot, but it's Edmonton 1 that I like best in this game. It's not particularly close. It's just I want to get the Edmonton power play guys in my lineup. On the Utah side, they're just in an awkward pricing spot. I'm fine with playing them, but again, it'd be more of a 150 max type deal.
Yeah. Am I gonna? It's like I'm fading. My camera's like fading here. Whatever. You can still hear me. That's all that matters. Let's talk about defensemen here. Top of the board, there's Makar, Werenski, Yossi, Dahlin, Bouchard, Weegar, Sider, Miro Haskin, and Dougie Hamilton. I like Makar, I like Werenski, I like Yossi. I don't really love Yossi for DFS here tonight. Like, obviously Makar and Werenski would be the top 2, but like with Hughes out, with Ghost out, there's min-price power play quarterbacks here tonight. So like, I don't know if spending up is going to be where I'm living here tonight. Like, I think Bouchard would be the guy I'd spend up for if I'm playing Edmonton. Makar's just too pricey for me. I'd probably be living in the Miro Haskin and Bouchard area, but I do like Makar and Werenski.
Yeah, for expensive defensemen, like just by my personal rankings, like the guys 6K and above. Oh, there he is. For the guys 6K and above, I do have Evan Bouchard close to number one, just behind Cedar. The only reason for Cedar is he's just getting a lot of ice time and he's in a pretty good matchup. But I go Bouchard, Makar, Werenski, Cedar. I don't hate the idea of paying up here tonight because there are a couple guys who good spot. Like I think Bouchard is in a decent spot. Cedar certainly is, even if I don't really like Detroit here tonight. Makar with Comrie and net, I think it obviously is perfectly fine. Werenski plays a ton. So there are spend up options. The thing is, there aren't a lot of guys in the mid price range that I really want to play here. Like Erik Karlsson, certainly with Letang out, I think is perfectly fine. But, other than that, you're looking at like Thomas Harley, Matthias Ekholm, Rasmus Anderson. Like there's just not a lot there. So like for me, it's a stars and scrubs night on defense. Either I'm paying up probably over at least 7K for a defenseman or going under the 4K range. Because you're right, Eric Brandstrom, power play 1 for Vancouver, under 3K. Rasmus Ristolainen, I don't know why, but he's getting power play time now. He's under 3K. Ty Smith, power play 1. He's under 3K for Carolina. Matt Grzelcyk, with Letang out, he's certainly going to get power play time. He's only 3,200. So there's 4 guys, 3,200 or less on DK that are going to get decent amounts of power play time here tonight. So I do think that for that reason, it is a stars and scrubs night on defense for me. So like Brandstrom, Orlov was playing a little bit more with Gostisbehere out. Den Mateychuk hasn't really done much for Columbus, but if he's in, he's fine. Josh Manson is back in for Colorado. Josh Manson is min price 2,500. Makes a lot of sense to me. If you want to pay up a little bit, Luke Hughes is still leading New Jersey's defenseman in ice time typically per game, so I don't mind Luke Hughes. Obviously, Matt Grzelcyk, as I mentioned. Brett Kulak, I think, is fine. Ian Cole, I think, is fine. Devin Taves, I think, is fine. But it's basically like Grzelcyk and Hughes in that 3 to 4K range, or else going under 3K for like Brandstrom, Manson, Orlov, Ty Smith, Ristolainen, those types of guys.
Yeah. New Jersey, come for the drones, stay for the sinkholes. That sinkhole is kind of close to me, actually, but it's on the highway, so that's what happens when you build a highway above abandoned mines. Classic New Jersey. Let's talk about goalies here. I think if I'm spending up on DraftKings, it would be Philip Gustafsson, 7,800. I guess if you wanted to go over 8K, it would be Jacob Markstrom for me. In the mid-range, Dustin Wolf, 7,500. Like Vancouver without Quinn Hughes, going to struggle offensively. If it's Askarov for the Sharks, I'd have some interest there at 7,300. I don't know if I would really spend down. If it's Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen at 6,900, I would consider it, but that's really about it. Like, I don't really want to drop below Askarov at 7,300.
Yeah. For me at the top of the board, it's Gustafsson and Markstrom. Gustafsson, it's, his point per dollar for me is solid. He's got, I think it's like the 8th highest projection for Stochastic here tonight. So I think Gustafsson, Markstrom, number 3. I do think there's shutout equity against Anaheim. I do worry that, it's another one of those New Jersey only allows 15 shots type deals. And then if you get 1 or 2 goals against, you're kind of boned. But Markstrom or Gustafsson, if I'm paying up, I think I hate saying I like Stuart Skinner tonight, but Utah hasn't been a high scoring team, and if Edmonton can hold them off on the power play, I think could be fine. So Markstrom, Gustafsson, maybe Skinner. for the cheap goalies, like I really do, Dustin Wolf isn't super cheap, but I do like Wolf here tonight. Vancouver's just missing too many key players, and he's only 7,500, and he's otherwise been really good this year. So I do like Dustin Wolf. We'll see who gets the start for San Jose. I haven't seen anything announced yet. If it's Askarov, I don't mind Askarov against the Flyers. If it's Georgiev, I probably wouldn't play him. Kind of the same thing for Anaheim. If Dostal goes, I don't hate the idea of using Dostal. It seems like he's in one of those spots where he might have to make 35, 40 saves here tonight if Anaheim's going to have a chance to win. But I don't see why he wouldn't start, so I'd probably go with Dostal. I think he's a cheap goalie I like. So like Wolf, Askarov, maybe, certainly Dostal. That's about it in the cheap price range. Like you said, I think UPL, if you need a sub 7K goalie, is fine, but I'd rather honestly just pay the extra couple hundred and play Dostal at home.
Yeah. We will be back on Thursday. Now I'm getting brighter for some reason, but be looking for your hat trick pick.
Well, it's our last show of 2024, so I'm going to go to a former Montreal Canadian who has revived his career and been a very important player for a team that has been a lot better than I think we expected to be. So I'm going to go Sean Monahan.
For some reason, for a second, I thought you were going to say Johnny Duran. It's like, oh, wow. Now that completely threw me off, but I'm going to go to my guy, Wyatt Johnston.
I like it. Let's see if the Stars can show out here tonight.
Yeah. Happy New Year's, everybody. Hope you had a good 2024. Hope you have an even better 2025. I know you can't see me and you can't really hear me, but good luck, everybody, tonight.
Happy New Year, everyone, and we will see you on Thursday.